Dr. Alex Martinez wiped the sweat from his face as he finished closing the wound on the alien soldier's chest. The creature had 6 arms and blue skin, but blood was still blood. The operating room on the hospital ship UHS Mercy hummed with quiet activity as nurses moved between patients. "Doctor, we have 3 more coming in," said Nurse Betty Collins, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. 2 humans and 1 Keth warrior. Alex nodded and moved to wash his hands. The war between the Keth Empire and the smaller worlds had been going on for 2 years now. Every day brought more wounded to their ship. It did not matter if they were human, alien, or even enemy Keth soldiers. The doctors treated everyone the same. "How's the Keth doing?" Alex asked, looking at the massive warrior on table 3. The creature was nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 yellow eyes. Even unconscious, it looked dangerous. "Stable," replied Dr. Karen White, who was working on the warrior's damaged leg. "Shrapnel from his own weapon. These Keth soldiers fight so hard they sometimes hurt themselves." Alex had been working with alien species for 3 years since Earth joined the Galactic Medical Coalition. At first, many aliens were surprised by human medical practices. Humans were the only species that treated enemy soldiers with the same care as their own people. Other species thought this was strange, even stupid. Lieutenant Lisa Carter burst through the medical bay doors, her combat medic uniform covered in dirt and blood. She had just returned from the surface of Epsilon Prime, where the fighting was heaviest. "Doc, you need to see this," Lisa said, her face serious. She carried a wounded Keth soldier on her stretcher. The alien was conscious and staring at her with confusion. "This one kept asking me why I was helping him," Lisa explained as they moved the patient to an empty table. "He said his people would never help a wounded human." The Keth soldier tried to speak, his voice rough and deep. "Why do you heal enemies?" This makes no sense to Keth understanding. Alex began examining the alien's injuries while answering. "Because you are hurt and we are doctors. That is all that matters." The Keth warrior's 4 eyes widened. "Your species is weak. You waste resources on those who would kill you." "Maybe," Alex said quietly, cleaning the soldier's wounds. "But this is who we choose to be." Elsewhere on the ship, Commander Jake Williams was coordinating with Captain Amy Davis of the transport vessel Nightingale. They were planning the next medical evacuation mission to Tau Ceti Fur, where civilian casualties were mounting. "The Keth are hitting civilian targets now," Amy reported over the communication screen. "Hospitals, schools, refugee camps. They say it's to break morale." Jake frowned. "That's against every rule of war. Even the Keth used to avoid medical facilities. Not anymore. Our intelligence says they're changing tactics. They think human medical support is keeping coalition forces fighting longer than they should." On the bridge, Captain Bill Rogers watched, the tactical display showing friendly and enemy positions across the sector. The green dots representing medical ships and facilities seemed so small compared to the red enemy markers. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Tom Bradley from the communication station, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." "Put it through." Admiral Peter Kane's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was grim. "All medical vessels. This is Admiral Kane. We have intelligence suggesting the Keth Empire is planning something called Operation Scalpel. We don't have details yet, but the name suggests surgical strikes." Back in the medical bay, Alex continued working on patients while thinking about the Admiral's message. Operation Scalpel. That did not sound good. Surgical strikes usually meant targeted attacks on specific objectives. Dr. Susan Clark joined him at the next patient, a young human soldier with burns across her back. "Alex, have you noticed how the Keth prisoners act when we treat them?" "What do you mean?" "They watch everything we do like they're studying us. Yesterday, one of them asked me how many human medical ships exist." Alex paused in his work. "That's an odd question for a wounded soldier." "That's what I thought too." Later that day, Sergeant Chris Johnson arrived on the Mercy with the latest batch of wounded. He pulled Alex aside when the medical bay was less busy. "Doc, I need to tell you something. We intercepted some Keth communications down on the surface. Our translation is rough, but they keep mentioning human medical personnel specifically." "What kind of mentions?" Chris looked around to make sure no one was listening. They're calling us targets, not just military targets, but priority targets. They think if they remove human medics, the coalition forces will collapse faster. Alex felt cold despite the warm air in the medical bay. Are you sure? Sure enough to report it up the chain. The Keth have figured out that human medical support is what keeps coalition forces effective. We save lives other species would give up on. We treat enemies that other species would let die. They see this as a strategic weakness to exploit. That night, Alex stood in his quarters looking out at the stars. In 3 years of war, human medical teams had saved over 2 million lives. They had built hospitals on 12 worlds and trained thousands of alien medical personnel in human techniques. The galaxy had come to depend on human healers. Earth's medical ships were always first to respond to disasters. Human combat medics were requested by name by coalition commanders. The Red Cross symbol of Earth's medical corps was recognized and respected across 50 star systems. But now the Keth saw this as weakness to attack. Alex thought about the Keth soldier he had treated that morning. The alien had called humans weak for helping enemies. Maybe the Keth were about to learn something about human nature that Earth had kept hidden. The communication system in his quarters chimed. It was a message from Admiral Kane, marked urgent and classified. All medical personnel, be advised that Operation Scalpel appears to be a coordinated strike against human medical assets. Increase security protocols immediately. Earth Command is implementing contingency plans. Stay safe out there. Alex closed the message and looked back out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Keth Empire was planning to target the healers. They thought human compassion was weakness. They were about to discover they were very, very wrong. The war was about to change in ways the galaxy had never seen before. The alarm on Medical Station Hippocrates screamed through the corridors at 600 hours. Dr. Susan Clark ran toward the emergency bay as explosions shook the entire station. Through the windows, she could see Keth fighter ships approaching fast. "This is not a drill," announced the station commander over the speakers. "All personnel to emergency stations, we are under attack." Susan reached the medical bay where chaos ruled. Nurses were trying to move patients while doctors grabbed emergency supplies. The station housed 3,000 patients from 12 different species, all recovering from war injuries. "Why are they attacking a medical station?" shouted Nurse Kevin Wright as he helped load a patient onto a stretcher. "We have Red Cross markings everywhere." Another explosion, much closer this time. The lights flickered and went out for a moment before emergency power kicked in. Dr. Susan looked out the window and saw something that made her blood freeze. The Keth fighters were not attacking randomly. They were targeting the medical bays. Specifically, she could see their weapons firing directly at the areas marked with red crosses. "They know exactly what they're hitting," she whispered. The station's defense systems were minimal. Medical stations were supposed to be safe under galactic law. No one attacked hospitals or medical ships. It was the most basic rule of war that every species followed. But the Keth were breaking that rule. "All medical personnel, this is Commander Hayes," came a voice over the communication system. "Evacuate immediately. This is a targeted attack on medical facilities. Repeat. They are specifically targeting medical personnel." Susan grabbed Kevin's arm. "We need to get to the escape pods now." They ran through corridors filled with smoke and debris. Other medical staff were helping patients toward the evacuation areas. Some patients were too sick to move. Susan saw doctors staying behind with those patients, refusing to leave them. "Dr. Clark, this way," called Pilot Jack Murphy from an escape pod doorway. "We have room for 2 more. Susan looked back at the medical ward. She could see Dr. Martinez helping a patient into a wheelchair. The old man was too weak to walk, but Martinez was not leaving him behind. "Go," Susan told Kevin. "I'll get the next pod." Kevin shook his head. "We go together or not at all." They helped Dr. Martinez get the patient to safety just as another massive explosion rocked the station. This time, the main medical bay collapsed completely. Anyone still inside was gone. The escape pod launched just as the station broke apart. Through the small window, Susan watched Medical Station Hippocrates die. 3,000 patients and 500 medical staff. all killed because they were healers. Meanwhile, on the planet Tau Ceti 4, medic Tony Lopez was treating wounded civilians in a clearly marked medical bunker. The Red Cross painted on the roof was visible from space. Everyone knew this was a place for helping the hurt, not for fighting. Tony had been working for 18 hours straight. The bombing of the nearby city had created hundreds of casualties. Children, elderly people, families who had nothing to do with the war, all needing medical help. Medic Lopez, "We have Keth soldiers approaching," warned Private Dan Foster, who was guarding the bunker entrance. "Let them come," Tony said, not looking up from the patient he was treating. "This is a medical facility, they can't attack here." But the Keth soldiers who entered the bunker were not wounded. They carried weapons and wore full battle armor. Their leader, a massive warrior with scarred skin, looked around the bunker with cold yellow eyes. "You are human medical personnel," the Keth said in broken English. "Yes, and these are wounded civilians under medical protection," Tony replied, standing up slowly. "You cannot harm people in a medical facility," the Keth warrior laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "We do not follow your weak rules anymore. Orders are to eliminate all human healers. These people need help. They're not soldiers. We do not care." What happened next was broadcast across the galaxy before Tony could stop it. The Keth soldiers executed every person in the medical bunker. Patients, civilians, medical staff, all killed while the galaxy watched in horror. Tony Lopez died trying to protect a wounded child. The footage spread through human space within hours. Every colony, every ship, every family saw what the Keth had done to their healers. On New Geneva, Captain Sam Davis of the medical frigate Good Shepherd was evacuating a children's hospital when Keth fighters appeared. The ship was clearly marked with medical symbols. Red crosses covered the hull. The children inside were sick, not soldiers. "This is medical vessel Good Shepherd requesting safe passage," Sam broadcast on all frequencies. "We are evacuating a pediatric hospital. We have 400 sick children aboard." The Keth response came in the form of weapons fire, but they were not trying to disable his ship. They were aiming directly at the Red Cross markings. "They're targeting our medical symbols," called out his co-pilot, Lieutenant Roy Green. "They know exactly what we are." Sam tried to maneuver away from the fighters, but the Good Shepherd was a hospital ship, not a warship. It was built to heal, not to fight. The Keth fighters were faster, stronger, better armed. "Emergency transmission to Earth Command," Sam ordered. "Tell them the Keth are deliberately targeting medical ships. They're not making mistakes. They know what they're doing." The Good Shepherd exploded 3 minutes later. 400 sick children died in space, their only crime being human patients on a human medical ship. Back on Earth, Admiral Peter Kane stood in the command center watching reports come in from across human space. Medical Station Hippocrates, destroyed. The Good Shepherd destroyed. Medical bunkers attacked. Field hospitals bombed. Medics executed on live broadcasts. "Sir, we have confirmation," reported Colonel Steve Blake, his face grim. "This is Operation Scalpel. Coordinated strikes against human medical assets across 7 star systems. They're specifically hunting our healers." "Casualties?" Kane asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. Over 10,000 medical personnel dead or missing, 15 hospital ships destroyed, 23 medical stations attacked. "They're not just hitting military targets, sir. They're killing civilian doctors, nurses, anyone with medical training." Kane stared at the tactical display showing red X marks where human medical facilities used to be. Each X represented hundreds of lives lost. People who had dedicated themselves to saving others, killed for the crime of being healers. "Admiral," called out Communications Officer Lisa Park. "We have Dr. Maria Rodriguez requesting immediate communication from Medical Command." Dr. Rodriguez appeared on the main screen. She was the head of the Human Medical Corps, responsible for all medical operations in human space. Her face was streaked with tears, but her voice was steady. "Admiral Kane, I need to make a formal request. The Keth Empire has declared war on our healers. They're executing medics, bombing hospitals, targeting anyone trying to save lives. I'm listening, Doctor. We need protection, not just for our facilities but for our people. These are doctors and nurses, not soldiers. They signed up to heal, not to fight. Kane nodded slowly. What are you requesting? Dr. Rodriguez took a deep breath. They've declared war on our healers, Admiral. We need our hunters. The command center went silent. Everyone knew what she meant. For 3 years, humanity had shown the galaxy only one face, the face of healers, teachers, and peacekeepers. But humans had another face, one that had been carefully hidden. Are you certain about this request, Doctor? Kane asked quietly. Admiral, they're killing children in hospitals. They're executing medics trying to help wounded civilians. They think human compassion is weakness to exploit. Kane looked around the command center at his officers. These were military people trained for war, but for 3 years, they had focused on protecting the healers, not on being hunters themselves. Very well, Doctor, I'll make the call. Kane turned to Colonel Blake. Colonel, activate Protocol 7, wake up the executioners. Blake's face went pale. Sir, are you sure? Once we deploy them, there's no going back. The galaxy will see what we really are. The galaxy chose to target our healers, Kane replied. Now they get to meet our hunters. The Keth Empire had made a terrible mistake. They thought human kindness was weakness. They were about to learn the difference between choosing to be gentle and being unable to be dangerous. Earth's greatest secret was about to be revealed. Luna Base Omega was hidden on the dark side of Earth's moon. For 3 years it had been completely silent. No communications, no activity, no signs of life. The base looked abandoned from the outside, just another old mining facility. But inside, Colonel Steve Blake walked through corridors that hummed with quiet power. The facility was massive, built deep into the lunar rock. Most people on Earth did not even know it existed. Blake stopped at a heavy metal door, marked with symbols that few humans had ever seen. He placed his hand on a scanner and spoke his name, clearly. Colonel Steve Blake, authorization code Omega 77. Awakening Protocol 7. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside were 200 pods arranged in perfect rows. Each pod contained a human in deep sleep. These were not ordinary soldiers. These were Earth's most carefully selected and trained warriors. They had been sleeping for 3 years, waiting for orders that everyone hoped would never come. Computer, begin awakening sequence for all executioner units, Blake commanded. Awakening sequence initiated. Estimated time to full activation, 30 minutes. Blake watched as the pods began to glow with soft blue light. Inside each one, a human began to wake up from the deepest sleep possible. They had been dreaming for 3 years. Their minds kept sharp with constant training simulations even while their bodies rested. The first pod opened with a quiet click. Major Kate Powell sat up slowly, her eyes immediately alert and focused. She looked exactly the same as when she had entered the pod 3 years ago. No aging, no weakness, perfectly preserved and ready. Colonel Blake, she said, her voice calm and professional. What's our mission status? The Keth Empire has targeted our medical personnel. They're killing healers across 7 star systems. Kate's expression did not change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. How many? Over 10,000 medical personnel dead. They're specifically hunting doctors, nurses, medics, anyone trying to save lives. More pods were opening now. Captain Rick Turner stretched as he climbed out, followed by Sergeant Bill Harper and Lieutenant Don Mitchell. Each executioner looked perfectly normal, like any other human. But Blake knew better. These were not normal humans. Equipment status? Asked Major Powell, checking her personal display. All gear is ready and updated. New intelligence has been loaded into your mission computers. Transport vessels are standing by. The executioners moved with quiet efficiency, each one checking their equipment and reviewing mission data. Their weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen from humans. Where human medical technology focused on healing and helping, executioner technology focused on ending threats permanently. Sir, called Sergeant Harper, looking at his mission display. The Keth think we're just healers. They have no idea we can fight. That's the point. Blake replied. For 3 years, we've shown the galaxy only our doctors and teachers. They think that's all we are. Captain Turner finished checking his gear and looked at the colonel. Orders, sir? Find every Keth military leader who participated in Operation Scalpel. Show them what happens when you target Earth's healers. Rules of engagement? Blake's face was stone cold. There are no rules of engagement. They broke every rule when they started killing medics. Show them no mercy, because they showed our healers none. The executioners nodded and began moving toward their transport ships. These vessels were also hidden technology, designed for stealth and speed. The galaxy had never seen human military ships because Earth had never needed to use them. Meanwhile, on the Keth flagship Worldbreaker, General Thrax was celebrating the success of Operation Scalpel. His command center showed the locations of destroyed human medical facilities across the sector. The human medical network is collapsing, reported his intelligence officer. Their coalition allies are losing medical support. Morale is dropping on all human allied worlds. Excellent, Thrax growled, his 4 yellow eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The weak humans thought their healing would win them the war. Now they learn that strength beats kindness. Sir, we're receiving reports of equipment failures across our fleet, called out another officer. What kind of failures? Communications are going dark on several ships. Navigation systems are malfunctioning. Some vessels have lost all power. Thrax frowned. Investigate immediately. We cannot have technical problems during our moment of victory, but these were not technical problems. Captain Rick Turner moved through the corridors of the Keth battleship Silent Death like a shadow. The executioner armor made him nearly invisible, bending light around his body. His footsteps made no sound on the metal floors. The Keth crew had no idea he was there. Turner reached the command center and observed the alien officers working at their stations. These were the beings who had planned the attack on Medical Station Hippocrates. They had chosen to target children in hospitals. The executioner drew his weapon. It was designed to kill silently and completely. No explosions, no alarms, no chance for the enemy to fight back or call for help. 30 seconds later, the Silent Death's entire command crew was dead. Turner left a single message on their main screen, written in perfect Keth language. You targeted our healers. We are not healers. The same scene played out across the Keth fleet. Executioners appeared where they should not be able to go, killed enemies who thought they were safe and vanished without trace. Ships went silent one by one. On Keth Prime, the planet's orbital defense commander stared at his screens in confusion. Where are our ships? Half the fleet has gone dark. We're trying to re-establish contact, sir, replied his communications officer. But we're getting no response from any of the missing vessels. What they did not know was that Major Kate Powell and her team were already inside their command bunker. The executioners had passed through security systems that should have been impossible to breach. They moved through the base like ghosts, leaving no trace of their presence. The orbital defense grid that protected Keth Prime had never been breached in 500 years. It was considered impregnable, defended by the finest Keth warriors and the most advanced technology. Major Powell looked at her mission timer. 12 minutes to disable the entire system. Alpha Team, begin Phase 1, she whispered into her communicator. The executioners moved with perfect coordination. Each one knew exactly what to do and when to do it. They had trained for scenarios like this thousands of times in their dream simulations. Lieutenant Don Mitchell reached the main power core and began his work. His tools were so advanced that the Keth technology looked primitive in comparison. Within minutes, he had complete control of the base's power systems. Sergeant Bill Harper infiltrated the command center and began downloading every piece of military intelligence the Keth possessed. Names, locations, plans, weaknesses, everything Earth would need to end this war permanently. Major Powell reached the defense grid controls and began the shutdown sequence. The orbital weapons that protected the Keth homeworld were about to go offline for the first time in centuries. Timer at 8 minutes, she whispered to her team. Back on the medical ship UHS Mercy, Dr. Alex Martinez was treating wounded from the latest Keth attacks when his communication screen activated. Admiral Kane's face appeared, looking grim but determined. All medical personnel, this is Admiral Kane. I want you to know that justice is being served for our fallen healers. Continue your work. Continue saving lives. But know that those who targeted you are being dealt with. Alex nodded and turned back to his patient, a young human soldier injured in the defense of a medical convoy. The soldier looked up at him with pain-filled eyes. "Doc, is it true? Are we really fighting back?" Alex cleaned the soldier's wounds gently. "We are healers, son, but we have protectors too, and our protectors are very, very good at their job." On Keth Prime, the orbital defense grid suddenly went completely dark. 500 years of protection vanished in 12 minutes. The planet was completely defenseless. Major Powell and her team were already gone, vanished as silently as they had arrived. The only sign they had ever been there was a message left on the command center's main screen. "Your fleet is gone. Your defenses are down. Your homeworld is helpless. But we are healers, not conquerors. Remember this choice when you think about targeting medics again." General Thrax received the reports on his flagship and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The weak humans who bandaged enemies had made his entire military disappear overnight. "How is this possible?" he whispered, staring at the tactical display showing red marks where his ships used to be. His intelligence officer, one of the few survivors from the silent death, trembled as he spoke. "Sir, these were not battles. There were no explosions, no fighting. The humans simply erased our forces." "What do you mean, erased?" "They appeared from nowhere, eliminated our crews and vanished. We never saw them coming. We never had a chance to fight back." For the first time in his military career, General Thrax understood that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not weak healers. They were apex predators who had chosen to be gentle, and now they had chosen to stop being gentle. The Keth Empire was falling apart, and they knew it. Emperor Vorthak stood in his throne room on Keth Prime, staring at reports that made no sense. In 3 days, half of his military had simply vanished. Not destroyed in battle, not captured by enemies, just gone. "Explain this to me again," he demanded, his voice shaking with rage and fear. General Thrax, one of the few military leaders still alive, stepped forward. His usual confidence was gone. "Your Majesty, the humans have capabilities we never knew existed. They are not the weak healers we thought they were. Impossible. We have studied humans for 3 years. They bandage our wounded. They cry when patients die. They are soft creatures who avoid violence." "That was what they wanted us to think," Thrax replied quietly. "We were wrong." Meanwhile, on the mining world of Kepler-7, Sergeant Bill Harper led his squad through the Keth Military Academy. This was where young Keth warriors learned to fight. It was also where they learned that showing mercy was weakness. The academy was heavily guarded, but guards could not stop enemies they could not see. Harper and his team moved through the facility like invisible death, their advanced technology making them nearly impossible to detect. "Remember, we are not here to hurt students," Harper whispered to his squad. "We target only the instructors and the facilities. The young ones can still learn better ways." The executioners placed small devices throughout the academy. These were not bombs that would hurt people. They were designed to destroy equipment, weapons, and training materials. The academy would become useless for making warriors, but the students would live. At exactly midnight, every Keth military academy across 12 worlds went dark. Training centers, weapon factories, and warrior schools all shut down simultaneously. The next generation of Keth soldiers would have no weapons to learn with and no teachers to train them. But the young Keth would live to choose a different path. On the trade route near Proxima Station, Commander Jen Walsh watched Keth supply ships through her targeting scope. These vessels carried food, fuel, and medical supplies to Keth military bases. Under normal rules of war, civilian supply ships were protected targets, but the Keth had broken those rules when they targeted human medical personnel. Walsh did not destroy the ships. Instead, her team disabled their engines and navigation systems. The supply vessels drifted helplessly in space, unable to reach their military destinations, but able to call for rescue. Let them float for a while, Walsh told her team. When they get picked up, they can tell their commanders what happens to military supplies when you target healers. The psychological effect was devastating. Keth military bases across the sector began running out of supplies. But more importantly, Keth soldiers realized that humans could strike anywhere, anytime, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Fear spread through the Keth military faster than any weapon. Captain Don Mitchell stood on the bridge of his stealth ship, watching Keth patrol vessels search desperately for human forces. The aliens flew in tight formations, their weapons powered and ready. They looked terrified. "Sir, should we engage them?" asked his weapons officer. "No need," Mitchell replied. "They are doing our job for us. Look at them. They are so afraid of shadows that they are shooting at empty space." Indeed, the Keth patrol was firing at sensor ghosts and false readings. Their fear had made them see enemies everywhere, even when no enemies were present. They were wasting ammunition on nothing while exhausting their own crews. Fear is a powerful weapon, Mitchell observed. Sometimes the threat of attack is more effective than the attack itself. Back on Earth, Admiral Kane received reports from across human space. The executioner operations were working perfectly. Keth military capability was collapsing without massive battles or huge casualties. "Sir, we have a communication request from Emperor Vorthak himself," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. Kane raised an eyebrow. "The Keth Emperor wants to talk? That is interesting. Put him through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the massive form of Emperor Vorthak. The Keth ruler looked older than in previous broadcasts, his yellow eyes filled with something Kane had never seen there before. Uncertainty. "Admiral Kane of Earth," Vorthak began, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. "We must speak." "I am listening, Emperor." "Your hunters. They are unlike anything we have encountered. Our military cannot fight enemies we cannot see or predict." Kane remained silent, letting the Emperor continue. "We demand to know what your humans want. What are your terms for ending this shadow war?" "Our terms?" Kane smiled coldly. "You targeted our healers. You killed doctors, nurses, and medics. You bombed hospitals and medical stations. You executed wounded patients. That was war strategy." "That was a mistake," Kane corrected. "And now you are learning the consequences of that mistake." On the hospital ship UHS Mercy, Dr. Alex Martinez continued treating wounded from various species. The patients included humans, coalition aliens, and even Keth prisoners. Nothing had changed in the medical bay. Human doctors still healed everyone equally, but now the wounded Keth soldiers looked at their human doctors differently. They had heard the reports. They knew what human hunters were doing to their military. One young Keth warrior, barely adult, stared at Dr. Martinez with wide, fearful eyes. "Why do you still heal me? Your hunters are destroying my people." Martinez continued cleaning the soldier's wounds gently. "Because you are hurt, and I am a doctor. That has not changed." "But your hunters are not doctors," Martinez finished. "We choose who we want to be. I choose to be a healer. Others choose to be protectors. You chose to target healers, so you met our protectors." The Keth soldier was quiet for a long moment. "I did not choose to target healers. I am just a soldier." "Then you have nothing to fear from our hunters. They only target those who chose to harm healers." Lieutenant Lisa Carter entered the medical bay with another group of wounded. Among them was a Keth officer who had been captured during a failed raid on a medical convoy. This one was leading the attack on the refugee medical camp on Titan Colony, Lisa reported. His unit killed 12 medics and 30 patients. Dr. Martinez nodded and began examining the prisoner's injuries. The Keth officer was badly hurt, but would live with proper treatment. "You will heal me?" the officer asked in surprise. "Even after what I did?" "I will heal you," Martinez confirmed. but I cannot protect you from the consequences of your choices." As if summoned by those words, Captain Rick Turner appeared in the doorway of the medical bay. The executioner was still in his stealth armor, nearly invisible except for a faint shimmer in the air. The Keth officer's eyes went wide with terror. "No, please." "Dr. Martinez," Turner said politely, "when you are finished treating this prisoner, I have some questions for him about other officers who participated in attacks on medical facilities." Martinez looked up from his work. "He will be ready for questioning in 20 minutes. Please wait outside." Turner nodded and stepped back into the corridor, but everyone in the room knew he was still there, waiting. The Keth officer began to shake. "What will happen to me?" "That depends," Martinez said calmly, "on how helpful you are in identifying other officers who chose to target healers." News of the systematic elimination of Keth military leadership spread throughout the galaxy. Other species watched in amazement as the gentle humans they knew revealed their hidden nature. Humanity was not weak. They had simply chosen to be healers, instead of hunters. But when someone threatened their healers, the hunters came out. On worlds across the galaxy, alien leaders met in emergency sessions. The topic was always the same. What did this mean for relations with Earth? The Altarian Council reached their conclusion first. If we respect human medical personnel, we have nothing to fear from human military personnel. The Zentaurian Empire. Agreed. Humans have shown us two faces. We prefer to see their healers. The choice of which face we meet is ours. Emperor Vorthak received these reports from his intelligence network. Every species in the galaxy was coming to the same conclusion. Humans were not to be tested. Their compassion was real, but so was their capacity for retribution. The Emperor realized he had only one choice left. The Keth Empire had to surrender before there was no Keth Empire left to surrender. But first, he had to admit something that no Keth leader had ever admitted before. They had been completely, utterly wrong. About human nature. The hunters were real and they were coming for everyone who had targeted the healers. Dr. Alex Martinez stood on the bridge of the UHS Mercy, looking out at the stars. Behind him, the medical bay continued its work, treating wounded from across the galaxy. But today was different. Today, he was not just a doctor. Today, he was speaking for all of humanity. The communication array was set to broadcast on every frequency used by every species in the galaxy. From the smallest mining colony to the largest empire capitals, everyone would hear this message. "This is Dr. Alex Martinez of the Earth Medical Corps," he began, his voice calm and clear. "I am speaking to the galaxy from the hospital ship UHS Mercy, where we are currently treating wounded from 12 different species, including Keth prisoners of war." Behind him, viewers could see human doctors and nurses working alongside alien medical staff. They could see patients of all species receiving the same careful treatment. The Red Cross symbol of Earth's medical service was visible on every uniform. For 3 years, humanity has served as healers in this galaxy. We have built hospitals on 40 worlds. We have trained thousands of alien medical personnel. We have saved over 3 million lives of every species, including our enemies. Martinez paused and looked directly into the camera. "We are healers, by choice. We could have been conquerors. We could have been destroyers. We chose to be medics, teachers, and protectors instead. The choice of what we are has always been ours." Across the galaxy, beings watched in silence. In the Keth command centers, Emperor Vorthak and his remaining generals stared at the screen. In alien hospitals, doctors and nurses stopped their work to listen. On Earth, families gathered around communication screens to hear their representatives speak to the universe. "You targeted our healers," Martinez continued. "You killed doctors and nurses. You bombed hospitals and medical stations. You executed wounded patients. You thought our compassion was weakness to exploit." The camera pulled back to show more of the medical bay. Keth prisoners were being treated with the same care as human patients. No revenge, no cruelty, just healing. "So you met our hunters." At that exact moment, across 50 star systems, every remaining Keth military leader who had participated in Operation Scalpel died in their sleep. It happened simultaneously. At the precise second, Martinez spoke those words. A demonstration of reach and coordination that shocked the galaxy. Emperor Vorthak felt the blood drain from his face as reports flooded in. His admirals, generals, and commanders were all dead, not killed in battle, not executed publicly, just quietly eliminated in the time it took for one human sentence. The choice of what we are has always been ours, Martinez repeated. We chose to be healers, but we have hunters too, and they protect our healers. Colonel Steve Blake stood in the command center on Luna Base Omega, watching the broadcast. Around him, the executioners prepared to return to their sleeping pods. Their mission was complete. The message had been delivered. All units prepare for stasis, Blake announced. The hunters return to sleep. The healers continue their work. Major Kate Powell sealed her weapons in their storage cases. Sir, what if they test us again? Blake smiled grimly. Then we wake up again, but I think the galaxy understands now. Back on the UHS Mercy, Dr. Martinez walked through the medical bay as he continued his broadcast. He stopped beside a young Keth warrior who was recovering from surgery. This soldier was injured fighting against human forces. Martinez explained to the camera. He tried to kill our people. We are healing him anyway because that is who we choose to be. The young Keth looked up at Martinez with confusion and something that might have been shame. Why do you help me? My people killed your healers. Martinez adjusted the soldier's bandages gently. Because you are hurt and I am a doctor. That choice is mine to make. He turned back to the camera. Every species in this galaxy now knows two things about humanity. First, we choose compassion. We heal our enemies. We help those who cannot help themselves. We build hospitals instead of weapons factories. Martinez paused at another bed where a human nurse was treating an alien child injured in the bombing of a civilian shelter. Second, we choose compassion because we are strong enough to choose anything. We protect our healers with hunters who can reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. The galaxy is not safe from human kindness because human kindness is protected by human strength. On Keth Prime, Emperor Vorthak made the hardest decision of his reign. He activated the emergency communication system and spoke to his entire empire. Warriors of the Keth Empire, this is your emperor. We surrender unconditionally to the humans. All military operations will cease immediately. We will make full reparations for our attacks on human medical personnel. His generals stared at him in shock. The Keth had never surrendered to anyone. Your Majesty, stammered General Thrax, we still have armies, ships, weapons. We have nothing, Vorthak corrected. The humans have shown us that our armies, ships, and weapons mean nothing against an enemy we cannot see, cannot fight, and cannot understand. We attacked their healers. They could have destroyed our entire species. Instead, they eliminated only those responsible and gave us a chance to choose differently. Dr. Martinez concluded his broadcast standing beside Captain Amy Davis as she coordinated the arrival of medical supplies donated by former enemy species. To the Keth Empire, and any others who might consider targeting healers, we give you this choice. Respect those who save lives, and you will see only our healers. Threaten those who save lives, and you will meet our hunters. The choice is entirely yours. The broadcast ended, but its effects rippled across the galaxy for months. 6 months later, Dr. Susan Clark stood in the ceremony hall of Medical Station Hippocrates II, built entirely with Keth reparations and labor. Former Keth soldiers worked alongside human doctors, learning the value of healing over harming. The new station was larger and more advanced than the original. It served as a teaching hospital where Keth medical students learned human healing techniques. The same species that had once targeted healers now provided protection for medical facilities. Admiral Kane addressed the Galactic Council's final session on the conflict. Representatives from hundreds of species listened as he explained humanity's position. Humanity has two faces, he said simply. You have seen both now. We prefer to show you our healers, but we will always have our hunters ready. The choice of which one you meet is entirely yours. The Altarian ambassador asked the question everyone was thinking. Admiral, Why did humanity hide their military capabilities? Why pretend to be only healers? Kane smiled. We did not pretend to be healers. We are healers. But healing and hunting are not opposites. They are both forms of protection. We heal the innocent and hunt those who threaten the innocent. Both are necessary. The session ended with the Treaty of Universal Medical Protection, signed by every species in the galaxy. It established absolute protection for medical personnel, facilities, and patients. The treaty was enforced not by laws or politics, but by the simple understanding that humanity was watching. The final scene took place in the medical bay of the UHS Mercy, where Dr. Martinez was treating a young Keth warrior injured in an industrial accident. The soldier had grown up hearing stories of the terrifying human hunters who could kill anyone, anywhere. But here was a human using those same hands to save his life. "Doctor," the young Keth asked, "why do humans help former enemies?" Martinez finished suturing the wound and looked at his patient. "Because we choose to be healers. But never forget that we chose to be healers." He gestured to the window, where Earth was visible as a small blue dot among the stars. We could have conquered the galaxy. We could have enslaved every species. We could have made ourselves the rulers of everything. Instead, we chose to build hospitals. The young Keth was quiet for a moment. "And the hunters?" "Sleep when the healers are safe," Martinez replied. "But they dream of protecting us, and their dreams are very detailed." Outside the medical bay, Colonel Blake's final report to Earth Command was brief. "Mission accomplished. The galaxy understands. Our healers are safe. The hunters return to Y. Sleep." On Luna Base Omega, 200 executioners entered their stasis pods, their weapons sealed away but ready. The galaxy now knew that humanity's greatest mercy was not their compassion, but their restraint. The choice to be healers would always be humanity's to make, and that choice would always be protected by those who chose to be hunters. The war was over, but the lesson would last forever. Never threaten those who dedicate their lives to saving others, because they are protected by those who dedicate their lives to ending threats. Humanity had spoken to the galaxy in the only language that transcended species and politics, the language of consequences.